Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. Brought to you by Compete at Curling, the leader in online event management for curling clubs and associations around the world. If you're tired of wasting your time and everyone else's time with paper-based registrations, or if you just want to make it easier than ever before for teams to sign up for your events and pay online, then visit CompeteAt.com. That's compete-at.com. And contact the people behind it. I've used Compete at Curling to sign up for Asham World Curling Tour events, and it looks as though other curling associations are using it as well. Now on to the show. I'm Dean Gemmelin for this edition. I reached out to Team Shawn Adams after their win at the Don Bartlett Classic in Gander, and wound up talking to the team lawyer. Practicing lawyer, the lead on Team Shawn Adams, and fresh off a win at the Don Bartlett Classic in Gander, Kelly Mittelstadt, great to have you on the Curling Show.
Oh, thanks, Dean. Good to be here.
Hey, let's start with the Don Bartlett Classic, a big win that moved your team to number 3 on the Asham World Curling Tour list. One loss against the Mark Johnson-led Gushoes in Gander, but you beat Randy Ferbey not only in the final, but in your second game as well, along with Glenn Howard in the quarters. How satisfying was the win, especially the victories over Randy Ferbey?
Well, actually, it was very, very satisfying. Our goal going into the weekend was to try to qualify for that first Grand Slam out in Quebec City. And not knowing what would happen out west with Carruthers and King, we figured we'd probably have to make it to the final or win the final to get into that Grand Slam event. So that was kind of our goal heading into the week. Knowing that we were going to have to make the final or win, we were realizing that we'd have to beat Howard, Burtnick, Ferbey, Martin at some point to get to the final. So we had that goal set for ourselves, and it was really satisfying to be able to achieve it.
Yeah, I mean, and then Reed, Carruthers, and didn't have a good weekend, so that sort of opened everything up, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Both him and Jamie King, if they had made the final in Medicine Hat, it would have been really tight to see who would have got those last couple of spots.
You know, I think you guys have played 2 events so far this year, right? The first being the Appleton Rum event in Sackville.
That's right.
And you got 2 wins, 2 wins early. Is this an advantage for a team that sticks together like yours has? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to that, to play well this early in the season. There's
certainly a comfort element when you come back to the team after the summer. Everyone's familiar with each other, comfortable in their positions. Not a lot of feeling out goes on early in the year, so you can almost pick up where you left off in the spring, and I think that leads to early success in the year. Having said that, it's something that you still need to build on and continue to build throughout the year to improve as the other new teams continue to build their years as well.
You know, you touched here on the fact that, you guys really had to get to the final to qualify for this Grand Slam. And curling out of Atlantic Canada presents a different set of challenges for teams who want to play at the elite level. But considering your career path, you're a lawyer, you went to law school out there, have you ever looked at it and thought it really is the best place for you to be able to curl at an elite level?
I've never really thought of it that way.
I mean, in other words, if you were in the West, I think you'd probably, you might feel compelled to play with a team that would want to play more regularly.
I would agree with that. Having said that, looking at our team, we have 3 other people who are similarly positioned as I am. We all have fairly steady, regular daytime jobs that require a lot of our time, and we can only plan out 5 or 6 spiels a year. So in that respect, we're all on the same page, and I think that leads to some success on our team too, where we all know that we can't, commit to playing 10 or 11 weekends in a row. I think being out west, if I was curling competitively out west, I wouldn't be able to have the same career. It would just be too much time away from work. And I think you see that with some of the teams now, focusing on curling in the winter and maybe working part-time in the summers.
Do you think having 4 guys like that, do you think it might bring a little higher level of focus when you are in events?
It does. I mean, you know when you're away for a weekend that there's that one goal where you're only playing every second weekend, and for us to qualify for the Grand Slam events, we need to do well at the events we do play in. So it really helps our focus in that respect, yes.
I think there's no question, people look at the talent pool level, the number of teams in Atlantic Canada. It's clear it's not as deep as it is in other parts of Canada. Is there, however, a team out there right now that maybe people don't know about that you think has the ability to move to the level of yours in the next few years?
I think there's a lot of teams out here that have that potential. I think one of the things holding them back is the inability to play against some of the top teams more regularly, one, and second, the ability to compete on arena ice. I think you saw that last year with Mark Kehoe's rank at Briar. Their record, I think, was 2-9 or 3-8, but I think a lot of that could be attributed to not having set foot on arena ice before. And we just don't have that opportunity here with the exception of the Don Bartlett Classic.
Have you ever pondered how difficult it would be for your team without the Asham World Curling Tour and the Grand Slam event?
It would be different. That's for sure. I think our game would be a lot different if we weren't playing on arena ice. One of the things it's let us do is really develop an aggressiveness to our game that we just can't duplicate on curling club ice. And without having the ability to develop that game, I don't think we would have success stepping onto arena ice for the first time. I know it's kind of a circular argument, but that's just the way it works, unfortunately.
Well, you are a lawyer, so
yes,
circular arguments are fine.
Yes.
No, I think that's why we can see a team like yours do well. I mean, without those Grand Slam events, you basically would have a chance to play those teams at the Brier, and that's about it.
Exactly, and that's why the Don Bartlett Classic has been such a benefit, I guess, to have an event like that in Atlantic Canada. I think we have to find a way to get more maritime teams up there because it is just a fantastic event. And I think a lot of teams would benefit from being up there in that atmosphere and against those teams.
I mean, it's funny. You say it's like, well, that's an event in Atlantic Canada, but still, how long does it take you guys to get there, and how do you get there?
From Halifax to Gander?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a direct flight from Halifax. It took us an hour and 15 minutes to get there.
Okay, so it's not but you're still flying, but it's not too bad.
You're still flying. It's not that bad. The flights aren't that expensive. You're looked after really well when you're up there. It's a great event for maritime teams.
Hey, let's look back at your career for a minute. You won a Canadian and then a World Junior Championship in 1904 out of Alberta on a team that also had Scott Pfeiffer on the roster. Most of us know that Shawn Adams actually won the juniors in 1993, but was prevented from going to the Worlds for, let's call it excessive celebration. When, I look back, I think the CCA was looking for a reason to make sure the team that went the year that won it, they went to the Worlds the same year, and I think Shawn got caught in that. But anyways, it's a long time ago, but does Shawn ever remind you that you took a spot at the World Juniors in 1994?
Yes, he does. It is interesting because I don't think Shawn recalled that when I first moved out from Alberta, that I was a member of that 94 junior team. And he's putting it behind him and made peace with the CCA, but he was kind of surprised when it did come up in conversation that we, quote, took his spot in Bulgaria in 1994.
He really didn't realize until after you started playing with you?
No, Shawn's a pretty laid-back guy, and it's not something that he would search out or even think about, and it just kind of came to mind through conversation, and then it all clicked in. It was kind of funny when it happened. But
see, nowadays he would have done a Google search on you right away.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh-huh.
And I do kind of agree with your statement, too, about maybe them being singled out just because of the way the CCA was doing the switch that year, which allowed us to go.
I mean, I think it was an awkward system, and they were looking for, I don't know, I mean, shoot, I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what went on, but I think they were looking for a reason to change it, and they got one.
Yep.
So,
no, and I think I might agree with you there, too.
And, what the heck, you're talking about guys who were 20 years old or however old they were, or younger than that, I guess. But anyways, it's old news, that's for sure, but it's interesting to see the dynamic between how it turned out playing with Shawn.
It's funny more than anything else.
Yeah. Hey, does your team feel any additional pressure when you do play in an event like the one in Gander, the Grand Slam, to play well because you're in a way representing curlers in Atlantic Canada or Nova Scotia?
Not necessarily. You do get that support from the crowd, realizing that you're a local, or I guess Atlantic Canadian team, and you want to do well for them, and you want to do well for yourself. But I don't think it puts any extra pressure on us being one of the few Atlantic representatives there. First and foremost, we're just, playing for ourselves, trying to represent the best we can.
Do you think, though, when a team from Nova Scotia that, that isn't Dacey or isn't you guys goes to the Brier like last year, do you think they feel a lot of additional pressure?
I think they may have, based on the past successes that Nova Scotia had the previous 4 years. And in a way, I think that's a good thing. It shows maritime teams that we can't compete. I mean, you put in the time and you put in the work, and you can't compete with some of the top teams across the country. So having that pressure, I think, is a very good thing because it lets you know that if you work at it, you can be right there near the top. So that pressure is good.
I've talked to some other leads on the show about this, like Craig Saville, and you're a guy who could clearly play a different position other than lead on another team in Nova Scotia. How do you balance, the demands of playing lead, which can at times get monotonous, with success? I mean, what's your balancing act?
I love playing lead. To be honest, I've never really thought about playing another position at this point in my career. Looking at our team, everyone's extremely comfortable and plays their position very well, and it just makes it enjoyable to be part of that team. I'm sure at some point in time I may look at playing another position, but given the success that we've had and the fact that we really enjoy playing with one another, I'm very happy to do what I do. I throw my 2 rocks and then I watch the other guys and just kind of sweep a little bit and watch them play out the end, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. So.
Do you skip or something in another league?
No, I don't.
You don't. Craig Saville was saying, he skips in the major league in Ottawa.
Well, I'm looking at Craig last year playing second in their Tankard final, and it looked like he didn't miss a beat. And I think that just goes to show, how good he is and how good that whole team is. But I think he definitely would benefit from playing skip in another team where you can get to throw those rocks. So if we were faced with a similar situation, I do not know if I could step into another position on an emergency basis.
Well, an honesty there. I don't
yeah,
know.
But I'm very happy playing lead. I love the position.
All right, hey, finally an issue that I've tackled maybe too often, but I haven't talked to a lot of front-end players about it, and that's the new team ranking system, which sees front-end players carrying forward a smaller percentage of points than skips and thirds. As a lead, what are your thoughts?
If I knew the rationale behind it, I might be able to comment on it a little bit more. It caught me off guard, and I think Scott made a fairly good comment that it should maybe just be 20% split 5 ways. Skip third, second lead, and 20% for the team if they carried over. That's really all I can say on it. I'm not sure how it was done. I'm not sure why they made the decision to split men's and women's events such that if there's one women's team in a men's event, that event's not eligible for CTRS points either. But it's done. It's what the rule is now, and I don't think there's any point in trying to change it at this point in the year.
I do think Scott had the best formula where it was 20, 20, 20, or whatever, 20 with the team getting 20 going forward, and then some reduction in points if you moved up position, which seemed to make a lot of sense to me. If you moved to another team and you went from playing lead to playing third or skip, some reduction in points.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many permutations that were possible. I guess as long as they did their due diligence and came up with the formula with the input of a lot of curlers and had those curlers on board, then I guess we can be satisfied with it. I just wanted to see how it came about.
And I still
that it
haven't.
was the best for everyone.
I still haven't seen what they do with something like the Russ Howard scenario. If a guy was throwing second and calling the game.
Oh, and same with Pierre Charette this year too. He's calling the game and throwing lead. So.
Yeah, how many points do you give him?
They'll probably make it up if the situation arises. I would think.
Well. Anyways, I wish that, I think they could still look at it and fix it in my mind, but I think it needs to be fixed. Anyways, we finished with the run back, Kelly, and you're a lawyer, so I'm expecting some measured responses here.
Fair enough.
All right. A genetic link between Craig Burgess and Leonard Nimoy.
And Ernie off of Sesame Street.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's quite strong, the Leonard Nimoy one, though. But you don't think he's genetically linked, is he?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
The general vibe of curling in Atlantic Canada.
It's growing. It's positive. It's a great place to curl.
The general vibe of curling in Western Canada.
Totally different than Eastern Canada.
Yeah, how so?
And maybe it's just because I was younger when I lived and curled competitively out there, but I find it much more collegial, much more of a fraternity out here in the East.
Right.
Where it's much more... it's competitive in both areas, but maybe not as friendly out west. More step on the ice, play your game, leave.
Right.
As opposed to more of a social gathering component as we have out east. It's just different.
That's a general perception, but it's interesting to hear it from someone who's played in both places.
Yeah, and I actually quit curling out west the last year I lived there. I pretty much hung it up just for that reason. So it was very enlightening and very... rewarding to be able to move out here and pick up curling again.
Shawn Adams' fitness regime.
I think Raj Binder said it best, walking from the couch to the fridge.
Mark Dacey's temper.
Interesting to watch.
Hey, do you guys miss having them around this year? I mean, that was a great rivalry, and one that, outside of, say, Martin Furby or Howard Madaw, which is, a little friendlier, of course, in Ontario, that was an interesting provincial rivalry. You guys going to miss it?
Yes. And I have a funny feeling they'll be back, if not this year, in a couple of years. I think we both made each other better teams just because that rivalry was so intense and so competitive. those games were a lot of fun to play, but there were some intense battles out there, which was great.
Danny Williams and the Tories rout in the recent Newfoundland elections.
When we were in Gander, the people there seemed to be very happy, so I didn't comment on it.
You didn't comment on it. I thought a lawyer would have some political comments, but anyways, he's playing it close to the vest here.
Nothing. Yeah.
And finally, the appeal of Port Hawkesbury in the holiday season.
As an Eastern team, it's fine. As a Western team, I would be very maybe apprehensive about getting home in time for Christmas because the airports are going to be a zoo.
Yeah, it finishes. I mean, on the 23rd, you got to get out and get back. There's
I think
no
a lot
question
of
it could be a weather issue.
Definitely, and I think a lot of teams are coming east for the Canada Cup qualifiers, so it's going to make a couple of long travel weekends for some teams from the West. But if that's the only weekend where Port Hawkesbury could fit in, I guess they didn't have a choice.
I mean, it might be perfect timing, too. I mean, it might be great for spectators and things, that's for sure. So, anyways, Kelly, I give everybody a chance to talk about their sponsors at the end of the show, so let me hear who yours are.
Perfect. We have Ocean Contractors, a company out of the Halifax area. They've been on board with us for 3 years and have been tremendous help to us. Salt and Physiotherapy in Halifax, Asham Curling Supplies have been on board with us and a great help as well. As well, our employers, Shawn Works for All and Breweries, they've given us a ton of support. And all of our employers have been just a great help allowing us to do what we do.
All right, Kelly, thanks for your time. I hope I don't get billed for it, but good luck the rest of the season, and maybe we'll talk again.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Dean. Talk to you.
That's Kelly Mittelstadt on The Curling Show, brought to you by Compete at Curling, the leader in online event management for curling clubs and associations around the world. CompeteAt.com is a big improvement over paper-based registration and makes it easy for teams to sign up and pay entry fees for events online. If you've ever chaired an event, you know what a hassle it can be to get entries completed and checks in the bank. Compete at Curling means a lot fewer headaches for the dedicated types who run bonspiels and playdowns. To find out more, visit CompeteAt.com. That's compete-at.com. Or visit thecurlingshow.com and click on the link to their website. As always, thanks for listening.
Don't you know it's hard for me to see things that I cannot find? How can I tell if it's a dream or just all in my mind?